So before I get into the video, let me just get this out of the way. For anyone who's unaware, I've already made 2 separate videos going over the spoilers for both chapters 63 and 64 this month, and to really watch the rest of this video without getting spoiled here, then I highly recommend watching those 2 videos first, since I'm going to be touching on them a bit to go throughout the rest of this video. Alright, so with that out of the way, I quickly want to mention this poll I ran, I think it was a day or 2 ago, where I simply asked you all, are you happy with the end to round 7? And I know it's a small community here, and depending on where you're asking, I'm sure these numbers could be different anywhere else, but on a poll with almost 300 votes, 69% voted yes, 16% said no, and 15% had no opinion. So in total, 31% had no honest favor to the ending, and I was very careful here to make sure I specifically only asked about the ending. And we gotta be honest here, there is no battle manga in history that is without controversy, right? Especially in Record of Ragnarok, where characters legitimately die to the point their souls are gone for eternity. It's like you expect some kind of division when a fan favorite character dies, whether you're just a casual reader or a power scaler or whatever the case may be. And that being said, the reason I only asked for your thoughts about the ending was because the fight still isn't over for us English readers, and I think that was fair on my part. It'll probably be a week or 2 until they're finally out and translated anyway, so it just didn't make a lot of sense to ask, since the fight isn't really over for the majority, especially for the casual readers that, you know, are in the loop like the rest of us. But when it comes to round 7 as a whole, and knowing what I know now about chapters 63 and 64, I have to admit, I think round 7 comes closest to being a masterpiece than all of the other fights. And this isn't just because of how the fight ended, but just for the record, I'll say this very quickly, I anticipate both the next 2 chapters are gonna win everyone over, including all the Hades fans. But if we're talking about the fight as a whole, back to front, I think this is the most high quality writing that we've gotten so far. And I don't mean to get analytical here, but just the way everything flowed from one chapter to the next, the way I think you could reasonably argue for either side winning the fight based on the storytelling, I think round 7 is just near flawless. And I think one of the main reasons I'm making this video is I just really wanted to get that recognition, but also because this is where I think the community is at its best, right? Especially now that the story's just entirely flipped upside down after Chin won. It's like the manga opened a whole new world now. Of course, I'm referring to the death of Hades, but we're now seeing the 3rd Greek god go down in Ragnarok. And not only that, he's a chief god. Oh, and by the way, humanity is now leading 4-3. Do you see where it gets interesting now? There's just so many different possibilities for the future of the story, and I didn't even mention anything about round 8. It's like this is the best time you could ever be reading Record of Ragnarok. And this is where it gets a little tricky, because I'm not sure we'd have most of these opportunities if Hades won. And I know this video is about round 7 as a whole, but when it comes to the end of the fight, if we're speaking hypothetically here, I just don't see how Hades winning offers more to the story than Chin. Now that's neither here nor there, right? I mean, there's no point in me talking about what could have been, but for the sake of discussion, let's just ask the question now. What if Hades had won instead? But I think the issue with asking this is it implies Hades even had a chance. So I'll ask another question here. Do you think Hades had as much of a puncher's chance as Chin did? And personally speaking, my answer to that is yes. Judging the fight based solely on what I could see, it was like watching a really fast chess match. In other words, I'm suggesting to you this was a competitive fight. I think the fight choreography made it very clear Hades and Chin were fighting to kill the entire time. And maybe this is gonna sound a little obvious to you, but you gotta remember, guys, we're now looking back at this fight in hindsight, right? And hindsight is always 20/20, right? You hear it all the time. Someone in the room says something like, oh yeah, it was obvious Poseidon was going to lose, or of course Zeus won, how did you even think Adam was going to win? Do you see what I mean? And for those of you who have been following my channel, then you already know I've said it on multiple occasions just how much I appreciate the actual fighting in round 7. But it's not just the counters or the different styles or the mind games or whatever else that was visually in front of me. It was the fact that on top of all this tension and blood and everything else, it was the fact that this was an honest competition to the death. It's like neither Hades or Chin gave the other even a second to breathe, unless it meant they could both get that second to breathe. Do you see what I mean? And it's very important that you understand that, because regardless of who won or lost, I was already prepared to take nothing away from round 7. So in other words, had Hades won, I'm confident round 7 would have still became my favorite round no matter what. That's just how good I think it is. And when it comes to what makes a fight competitive in Ragnarok, that's usually what I'm always looking for, and unfortunately this is one of the main reasons round 6 is my least favorite fight in the story so so far. Now, I'm probably gonna regret saying that in the future, right? And just to be clear, despite my indifference to round 6, I think round 6 still has some of the most unforgettable moments in the entire story. I'm not trying to take anything away from it. I don't know, maybe I just feel so strongly about the series as a whole that I'm hesitant to actually criticize it, but I just never felt that Buddha was in any real danger of actually dying, let alone losing the fight. But regardless of how uncompetitive it felt, I still value the story we got from it, and this is when I take a step back as a fight fan and have to think about it from a different perspective. So even though I sometimes go back and find these really good moments in round 6, I mostly only remember waiting every month to see if it looked like Buddha was going to lose, and maybe that's the issue here, right? Because it's like I was under this impression the entire time since round 6 started that Buddha was going to win. Like, it just made sense for the story, for the characters, for the tournament, for the round. I was just so sure he was going to win. And even after Hajin showed up, that never really changed for me. So the whole fight felt anticlimactic, but not because I knew who was going to win, but why I knew who was going to win. Do you see where I'm going with this? And I know I'm going off topic here, but it's very relevant to the bigger point that I want to get across to you about just how good round 7 is. Like I said, I'll probably regret mentioning round 6. Again, I think it has a lot of good moments, but when it comes to round 7, it did more than just give me a solid story with 2 amazingly written characters. It had me guessing every month to see who was really winning the dance. That's just how close it felt with every new chapter. And as a fight fan like me who's constantly trying to find the next new battle manga to get hooked on, a competitive fight is probably the most important thing I'm looking for. To me, it's what makes the ride fun. Of course, high quality writing can only be a good thing, right? But it's that combination of tension and anticipation with historical characters and themes and story that separate the record of Ragnarok from everything else I'm reading. So apart from the fight itself, I think what might be one of the biggest differences that sets round 7 apart from the rest is Alvatar. Now, I know we're waiting on the translation still, but seeing Chin and Alvatar work together in 2 chapters back to back is what I think so many of us were waiting for, right? And I'm referring to the idea of a human fighter and Valkyrie working together. They usually only form a Voland with some interactions here and there, but it's like we end up seeing Alvatar become the MVP by the end of the fight. And I've always liked Chin and Alvatar together, so to see her with a more important role now only makes the fight feel that much more special. And in terms of who's the greatest king, again, had either Chin won or lost, I was ready to call this my favorite fight no matter what, and maybe it's still too early, right? Like, I'm sure the actual chapters in English will influence my thoughts more than the spoilers do, but I just can't see it coming second place. And I know a lot of Hades fans are still recovering or whatever, but he really did go out like a champion in my opinion. I think as a character, Hades is one of the best written characters coming from the Greeks, if not the best coming in front of Heracles, but I think this is the kind of issue that gets smoothed over with time, right? Especially because since the beginning of round 7, Hades just came off like he was just too good to lose, so I can really see round 7 hit that round 2 or round 4 level of respect by the time we're more ahead in the manga. And like I said, hindsight is always 20/20. I'm sure there's a lot you would have liked to see changed for Hades, regardless of if you wanted him to win or lose, but when I look at Hades and Chin without wondering about what could have been, I just don't even know what I would have changed, and there's always something I would have liked to see different, especially with round 6 or round 5, but if I'm being honest here, I just really think Chin versus Hades is a near flawless round. But that's gonna be the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I know there's a lot of mixed opinions still going around. I completely understand, so feel free to let me know in the comments what you think, anything you agreed or disagreed with, and if you liked what I had to say, then please leave a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you're interested in more Record of Ragnarok, then make sure you subscribe. I'll be doing more videos here on the channel like always. And yeah, again, thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a great day.